Here are the 3 supplements that just about every autoimmune case should be taking, and it's not vitamin D, it's not ginger, and it's not fish oils. As a matter of fact, these 3 supplements are probably 3 supplements that you never heard of but need to. I'm going to be covering how to take them, when to take them, how much of each one of those 3 to take, and the best autoimmune cases or conditions that each one of those 3 supplements will work hopefully wonderfully for. Okay, so the first supplement is called Emotheon. Emotheon. That's a very specialized form of glutathione called S-acetylglutathione. Now, S-acetylglutathione or Emotheon is very, very different than regular glutathione. They are like completely different. I want to explain why or how. Regular glutathione contains just 3 amino acids linked together: cysteine, glutamate, and glycine. Now, in order for glutathione to work properly in your body, the whole molecule, meaning all 3 of those amino acids, needs to be absorbed through your intestinal tract, and those 3 amino acids need to be intact. The issue is, with the strength of a person's stomach acid and the enzymes that are present in the gut, they break those 3 amino acids apart into individual amino acids: cysteine, glutamate, and glycine. So absorbing those 3 amino acids together as a molecule, or what's called a peptide, is very different than absorbing those 3 individual. They are not the same at all. And in order for glutathione to work its magic for autoimmune diseases, you need to absorb all 3 of those together. They need to be linked together. They need to be stuck together. It would kind of be like if in your driveway, you had a car door, car tires, car engine, maybe a dashboard, a back seat, some headlights and taillights, but they're all just laid about your driveway. What are you going to do with that? You can't drive it. You can't really do anything, right? Unless you're a regular subscriber to Popular Mechanics and happen to have a full auto mechanic garage in your backyard, then you really can't do anything with those parts other than look at them and probably complain that they're in your driveway. So having those parts all about your driveway is very different than having a Ferrari fully loaded, sitting in your driveway, ready to be driven. Well, the Ferrari that's fully loaded, that's ready to be driven, that's Emotheon. That's S-acetylglutathione. It's that form. And the reason why that form is so much better than just regular glutathione with all the car parts laying about your driveway is that S-acetyl form of glutathione, that Emotheon, the S-acetyl group protects the 3 amino acids from stomach acid and from enzymes. What that means is the whole molecule gets absorbed into your bloodstream through your gut. The whole molecule actually gets into your cell because the S-acetyl group almost like pulls the other 3 amino acids right into the cell in the form of glutathione, where it can be used to do its magical work. In addition to that, and this is really important, especially for people with MS, and we'll get into this more in a little bit, but S-acetylglutathione, Emotheon, can cross the blood-brain barrier. This is huge for people with any type of autoimmune disease that targets the brain and or central nervous system. Okay, what actually does Emotheon, S-acetylglutathione, do in the human body specifically for autoimmune cases? So the first thing S-acetylglutathione, Emotheon, does for autoimmune cases is it prevents the triggering of autoantibodies. What's that mean? So autoantibodies, like thyroid antibodies, right, that go ahead and actually damage the thyroid gland. Well, S-acetylglutathione, Emotheon, prevents the triggering of those autoantibodies. So it prevents the body from making these antibodies that start to destroy the thyroid, or the joints in rheumatoid arthritis, or the skin in psoriasis, or the brain in multiple sclerosis, so on and so forth. I think you get the point. Second thing it does is it supports phase 2 liver detoxification in the removal of certain toxins and compounds that actually trigger inflammation related to autoimmune disease. So we're removing the triggers from the body that actually trigger the autoimmune response, that trigger the inflammation that's associated with various autoimmune conditions. Also, glutathione is very calming to the body, but again, it has to get into your body, right? So the S-acetyl form, it actually calms the immune system. It calms this pro-inflammatory state where the immune system is always on guard, fighting, attacking its own tissues, its own body. And instead, it sends your immune system to a nice luxury vacation in the tropics we can just chill out on the beach and catch some rays. So that is the benefit of this Emotion. Again, totally different than regular glutathione. Okay, now listen up. This is important for those of you that have autoimmune disease. Here are the conditions that Emotion is most likely to work well for. 1, people with Graves' disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and people with lupus. Now, understand, fibromyalgia, it's on the fence. Is it an autoimmune? Is it not? Regardless, S-acetylglutathione can be beneficial there. Same with chronic fatigue syndrome. There's 2 different schools of thought. A large percentage of the people believe, yes, there is an autoimmune component, and then some people believe there's not. That part doesn't matter. What we know is the physiological changes that S-acetylglutathione causes in the body are great for those conditions. And it has a high propensity, a high likelihood to be beneficial for those conditions as well. Okay, amount to take, 50 milligrams, 1 to 2 times per day. Orally, plop it in your mouth, give it a swallow. And it is best to take on an empty stomach, so that way it gets absorbed right into your bloodstream. I like it first thing in the morning, and then again about 30 minutes before dinner or lunch. Okay, now we're gonna get into the second supplement, but before we do that, if you like this information so far, please drop me a like, maybe drop me a little comment. It just helps with the algorithm and getting the information out there. Okay, get a pen and paper out for this one and definitely save this video, because the next supplement you want for just about any autoimmune condition out there is andrographic leaf extract in the form of what's called paractin. Okay, what's paractin? What's andrographics? And how does this all work for autoimmune disease? Well, I'm going to tell you in just a second, but before I do that, I have to make sure you have a little bit of understanding of immunology related to the cells and inflammation of the body. So there's a substance in the human body called NF-kappa B. And NF-kappa B is like the master switch for inflammation. It's kind of like, think of like the circuit breaker that's maybe in your basement. And how you have that one main switch that turns all the power on, and then it can turn all the power in your house off with just one thud? Well, that's what NF-kappa B is for inflammation. NF-kappa B, when it's turned on, inflammation systemically, boom, is increased, and the body really feels it. Now, things that have the potential to turn NF-kappa B on are environmental toxins like heavy metals, mercury, lead, cadmium, environmental toxins like PBA, and other chemicals that you can get like glyphosate from our food sources. Other things that can turn NF-kappa B on are things like infections like parasite, yeast, bacteria, mold, fungi, the toxins that mold produces, like these mycotoxins. These type of substances have the potential to turn on the master inflammation-producing switch in your body, which, if you had autoimmune disease, you want that switch turned off. And that's what paractin essentially does. It shuts off the master inflammation switch, NF-kappa B. When NF-kappa B gets turned off, that means you have less pain, less inflammation. And remember, all autoimmune disease, every single autoimmune condition out there is made worse by inflammation. So when NF-kappa B is turned off by paractin, and I'm going to tell you how much to take in a second, but when NF-kappa B is turned off by paractin, that means less pain, less swelling, less inflammation. It means better energy, and it means better mitochondrial function, which is important for the function of essentially every cell in your body. Ultimately, all this boils down to less autoimmune flares for just about every autoimmune condition. And an important note here, just to kind of wrap your wits around this, NF-kappa B is elevated in just about every autoimmune condition. We're talking multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's disease, Graves, psoriasis, just about every autoimmune condition out there, NF-kappa B is elevated in. So paractin helps to bring NF-kappa B down, lowering inflammation in all those conditions, essentially reducing the autoimmune component, the flare in that condition, which really helps the whole body to heal and function better. Another cool thing about paractin is it's antimicrobial, meaning it actually has an antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal component to it. Why is that important? Well, because at the root of many autoimmune diseases, there is a parasite, a yeast, a fungus, a mold, an H. pylori, something like that. Well, because paractin naturally is antimicrobial, not only does it shut off inflammation or help turn down inflammation, right, by turning off NF-kappa B, but also it's antimicrobial. So it helps reduce the growth of some of these root cause pathogens or microbes that can be behind a person's autoimmune condition. Now, angiographics and paractin are not the same thing. Angiographic leaf extract has stuff in it, and it has to be standardized, meaning it has to be extracted in a very specific way to be most effective for autoimmune cases. And the most effective form of this extracted angiographics leaf extract is paractin. So that's the one that you want. And my last cool kind of, I just really like this fact about paractin is it inhibits COX-2. So COX-2 is an enzyme that gets elevated in autoimmune and inflammatory conditions. COX-2, we have these COX-2 inhibitors, right? Like Celebrex and Vioxx, and even ibuprofen is a COX-2 inhibitor, right? Well, paractin is a natural COX-2 inhibitor. So it's like God gave us this super powerful, awesome COX-2 inhibitor, master control center, NF-kappa B inflammation shutter offer right from the earth, right from the ground. And it's called paractin. So you want to make sure you get that. Now, what autoimmune cases does it have a really good chance of working in and how much to take? Right now, I'm going to tell you. So the autoimmune cases that are most likely to be positively effective, meaning reduced the person feeling better from taking paractin are Hashimoto's thyroiditis, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, lupus, and multiple sclerosis. And you want to take about 250 milligrams a day of paractin. Now, when I say this, you want to take this and all that stuff, please understand, check with your doctor about this, right? I'm not telling you definitely go and take this. I'm telling you from an educational standpoint, this has the chance of helping you, but you do have to consult with your doctor, your licensed healthcare provider to make sure that any of the products that I'm talking about in this particular video are right for you. Okay, let's move on to the third one, because this third one, you better have your shoes on because this is going to knock your socks off. This is a really good one. I love this one. Okay, so this third one is called curcumin C3 complex. Now, I'm sure all of us have heard of curcumin from turmeric, right? This is a bit different. This is an extract from turmeric that has the three main forms of curcumin: D-methoxycurcumin, methoxycurcumin, and curcumin itself. Those three do something magical for autoimmune cases that I'm going to tell you about that's different than just straight turmeric. Now, look, not that straight turmeric is bad. Straight turmeric is great, and straight curcumin is great too, but it's not as good, in my opinion, as these extracts. When you pull these super potent, awesome parts of curcumin out and give them in concentrated amounts to an individual along with the whole food, magic. So let's talk about the magic right now. Okay, so curcumin C3 complex affects your mitochondria in a very positive way. And this is why this is important. All of the 40 trillion cells in your body have a mitochondria, with the exception of mature red blood cells. Now, mitochondria, they're the energy production centers of your cell. It's like the engine for your car. This is the engine for your cell. If all of your heart mitochondria stopped working all at once, your heart would essentially stop beating. So it's the mitochondria that allow our cells to work. Now think about it. Liver cells detoxify. Heart cells, they beat. Brain cells conduct electricity, think, process, do whatever you want to say that they do, right? But all of these cells require energy to do their job, and they get their energy from the mitochondria. Now, there's compounds that are found in the human body that you've probably heard of called reactive oxygen species, ROS for short. Reactive oxygen species, when there's too many of them floating around, they damage the mitochondria. So they actually cause mitochondrial damage. This is a major problem because as the mitochondria starts to malfunction, the cell starts to malfunction. As the cell starts to malfunction, we now have the potential for increased risk for cancers as well as autoimmune disease. So, a lot of cancers that are out there today, they're finding out more and more that they're mitochondrial in origin. So autoimmune disease also can have a mitochondrial aspect. And also think about it. Mitochondria generate energy. Many people with autoimmune conditions, they're tired. It doesn't matter if you have rheumatoid arthritis, if you have lupus, if you have Hashimoto's, all of them typically have some degree of fatigue. Some conditions may be more, some may be less, but all of them wish they had more energy than they have. Let's put it that way. So curcumin C3 complex does a very important thing. It kind of gobbles up these reactive oxygen species that would damage your mitochondria. So think about it like a little Pac-Man. Remember the 80s game Pac-Man, right? So they're kind of like Pac-Man that basically gobble up these reactive oxygen species and help to eliminate them from your body, removing damage from the mitochondria and from the cell. Why is that so important? Well, as the cell heals and repairs, your tissues are made of cells. The tissues start to heal and repair. As the tissues heal and repair, well, your organs, joints, glands, they're all made from tissues. Your organs, joints, and glands start to repair. Your body is made up of organ, joints, and glands, right? So your body starts to repair. So we're repairing it at a very fundamental cellular level when we're using C3, curcumin C3 complex. So how much of the curcumin C3 complex should you take? And what conditions, what autoimmune conditions is it most likely going to work really well for? Okay, so first the autoimmune conditions. Inflammatory bowel disease like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. Curcumin C3 complex shows much promise there. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and general disorders of the skin, and also lupus. I forget if I said lupus or not. If I didn't say lupus, lupus too. So you guys can be benefited by or can receive benefit from curcumin C3 complex. Okay, so what's the most effective dosage of curcumin C3 complex? Well, it appears to be 750 milligrams. You can typically split that up into 2 dosages per day. So 375 milligrams in the morning time with breakfast. It's best to take with food and a fat, and another 375 milligrams at dinner time for a total of 750 milligrams per day. That seems to work the best. It seems to be about the most effective dosage for the majority of autoimmune conditions. Now, some people do take more. Some people could take up to 1,500 milligrams per day. So, but 750 does seem to be a sweet spot. Of course, talk to your doctor, and if you want to understand the root cause behind autoimmune conditions, then take a second and watch this video up here. But also, please give me a like, a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not part of the team, part of the fam. And also, what else can you do with these videos? I don't know, but maybe drop me a little comment. Let me know if you liked it. Thanks, guys. I'll see you at the next video. Check this one out.